What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Touchdowns to Home Runs. My name's Bernie. Thank you for joining us today on this post-game show. I hope that your Saturday night is going very well. At the time that I'm filming this video, we're about 2 minutes away from getting a final score from Michigan. The Wisconsin Badgers will improve to 2-0. They absolutely destroyed the Michigan Wolverines. The score that I have currently is 49-11, but it looks like Wisconsin might tack on a few more, but right now they're just running down the clock. So we're just going to break that down. In just a second, we are going to get to the box score, but I just want to break down sort of my overall thoughts of the game. And I mean, Michigan, this is one of the worst football games I think I've watched in a long time, if not ever. It was so pathetic. And the first half, I think, might have been the worst half of football that I've ever watched. I don't think I've ever seen a team come into a game so unprepared as the way that Michigan came into this game. They get the first stop, but in Joe Milton's first two passes are interceptions. And I mean, this was a game that Michigan lost not only in the first half, but in the first quarter. And within the first two drives, all the momentum was right with Wisconsin. The first interception, I know, wasn't Joe Milton's fault. It was Nick Eubanks' fault. It was actually a pretty good throw, and Nick Eubanks was the only open wide receiver. A pass right off his hands. But I mean, how many times do we have to see week in and week out Michigan receivers dropping passes and not helping an offense that is already struggling? But it tends to also come from our big guys, and we need to get those sure hands from guys especially like Nick Eubanks, and we're just not getting that. The second interception, don't even get me started. That's one of the worst throws I've ever seen. I don't know if it was miscommunication, something that messed up with the route or the timing, but it was nowhere close. And I think that's where the game really started going downhill. Michigan was down 28-0 at the half. They had a chance to add on 3 at the end of the second quarter. They choose not to. After the touchdown gets called back, they get stuffed at the goal line. Instead of going to 3, they give Wisconsin, again, the momentum going into the half. And I mean, I know that this is a game that Michigan, wasn't going to come back in, down 28-0 or 28-3, not a huge difference. But again, Michigan received the ball in the second half. And I just think it's a mentality thing, because you saw the frustration with some penalties in the second half. This Michigan team is frustrated. And I think they just, some wrong play calls. I think that Harbaugh needs to go. I think that Don Brown needs to go. I think that even Josh Gaddis needs to go. They're getting extremely predictable. I want these guys, all 3 of them, fired. I want new faces, and I don't want to see these guys, quite frankly, around Michigan ever again, because I'm sick and tired of the same things happening year in and year out. It's just not fun. Anyways, let's go to the box score. Let's break it all down. Joe Milton, not good, as I said. 2 interceptions in his first 2 passes. He ended the game 9 for 19 with only 98 passing yards and no passing touchdowns. He ended up getting pulled. I think it was the third quarter that he got pulled, where Cade McNamara went in, who actually looked pretty solid. At least in the first drive. 3 for 3. I think he drove down something like 74 yards, which was including the 2-point conversion at the end. And I mean, he wasn't that great in the drives afterwards, but I mean, he did more than Joe Milton did the entire game, really more than we've seen him do for the past 2 games. By the way, before I move on, we just got the final score, 49-11. So Wisconsin, again, as I said before, dominated this game. But I mean, Joe Milton gets pulled. Cade McNamara leads the only good drive that I would say the Wolverines had this game. And I think it'll be really interesting to see who Michigan starts next week. Cade McNamara is a guy who maybe doesn't have the same ceiling as Joe Milton, but I think Michigan just needs some consistency, and I think that Cade McNamara is the better option. So look out for that this week. That's going to be something that's really interesting to look out for. The Michigan run game could not get going. 19 carries, 47 yards. Ronnie Bell led the way in terms of receiving with 4 receptions and 56 yards. The one thing that I don't like here, though, is Ronnie Bell had 1 reception in the first half. He had 2 receptions, which were back-to-back plays on the first drive in the third quarter, and then he had 1 near the end of the game. And Ronnie Bell's our best receiver. He's our best receiver for sure. There's some other guys there as well, but we need to get Ronnie Bell more involved. I was wondering at the beginning of the game if he was even playing, because I just didn't see him at all. He's not getting the touches. He's our best receiver. 2 games in a row now, we've seen him get the majority of his touches only in the second half. And I mean, this is a guy who gives his all. He'll get you extra yards if we can just find him, and that's something that we definitely need to do. In terms of the Michigan defense, I mean, we're brutal. As I said before, Don Brown needs to go. We're getting very predictable. Over the course of the season, we've been flipping from man to zone, back to man. Today we played some like 3-2 defense, some cover 3. It looked like, honestly, we've never played it or practiced it before. We're predictable, but we also just suck. We can't find an identity at all on defense. Our cornerbacks can't get involved. Our cornerbacks keep getting beat. Our cornerbacks in general sucked, although Vincent Gray did look better. But for the majority of the season, our cornerbacks have absolutely sucked, and we can't find an identity on defense. In terms of Wisconsin, Graham Mertz, didn't play as well as you would think for a team that put up 49 points. He passed 12 for 22, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns, but it was really the ground game. I mean, 51 carries, 341 yards, 5 of the 7 touchdowns came on the ground. Yeah, they were great. Jalen Berger led the way, 15 carries, 87 yards, but they had a bunch of guys over 60, a lot of guys in double digits as well. They absolutely dominated in terms of that. And in terms of the receiving, Jake Ferguson led the way, 4 receptions, 51 yards. In terms of Wisconsin on defense, I mean, they did exactly what they had to do. They shut down Joe Milton. Michigan was only 3 for 11 on third down. They made them feel uncomfortable all day. They only allowed 1 total yard in the first quarter, 219 yards in total. I mean, they dominated. The Wisconsin defense looked very good, and this is a team that only started practicing again in the past couple days. They were dealing with COVID, had 2 of their past games canceled as well. So, I mean, this is a really, really standout game for Wisconsin. Let's just quickly look at the games for next week. Michigan plays Rutgers, which looks like one of the only teams on paper that they can beat. Rutgers will go into that game with a 1-3 record, and I just really hope that Michigan can find a way to bounce back and win that game. In terms of Wisconsin, they got a big one next week. Northwestern today improved to 4-0. Northwestern is surprising a bunch of people. They're ranked inside the top 25. This will be the biggest game of the year so far for both of these teams, so a nice early test for Wisconsin, and we'll also see what Northwestern is made of. But anyways, guys, if you made it to this point in the video, thank you. Let me know your thoughts and your comments on the game down in the comment section below. If you liked today's video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to Touchdowns to Home Runs. If you haven't already, we've left our store link, our podcast link down in the description down below. Make sure to check those out if you like the content today. A lot of great content that we've been putting out. Also, again, as I said before, the store, there's some college football merch. Our store is not fully done yet, but if you type in Touchdowns to Home Runs or tdstohrs.com, you can find the Touchdowns to Home Runs store. And just see if you like anything, and keep an eye out for merch that we're going to be putting out there in the future. But anyways, guys, if you liked today's video, again, thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. Make sure to leave the like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.